Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and we're hitting the double digits in our look at the 1943 Batman serial from Columbia Pictures. This is episode 10, and joining me here is my old pal, the editor of Gotham City 14 Miles, and I'm going to do it again. I should have wrote it down when you told me the last episode. Zonk?
It's pronounced Zlonk.
Zlonk.
You got to get the L in there.
You got to get the L.
Zock.
Zock.
And then Zowie.
And then Zowie. Those are the last
three. That's three separate sentences.
Well, three separate interjections, as we'd say in.
Yes.
For the English teacher.
Okay, teach.
And by the way, this gentleman's name is Jim Beard. Hey, Jim.
Hey, how you doing? I came back.
You came back.
Yeah.
Even though we don't have that interesting character Colton anymore, you came back.
Oh, pshaw. He's somewhere.
We've got 5 more, 6 more, including this one. Maybe he'll show up here. No, I'll tell you right now, he didn't.
Yeah, if I'm going to sit through that many more chapters of this show, he better show up.
This is how you'll know. If Jim doesn't show up for the final episode, that means Colton never returns.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man. This one is an interesting one. It is, and for many things, because we're back to getting more Daka. We get more Chuck White. We also get a message from Washington. There's a lot going on here, so I want to get into it here.
There is.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
And I agree. And I teased you about something, an incredible statement in this episode or this chapter. So let's get into it.
Okay.
When Daka's men search for gang recruits, Batman assumes a new disguise. The spies are suspicious, however, and capture him until Robin takes a hand.
The Batman's outside. Let's get him.
So it's episode 10. It's called Flying Spies. And I got to say, right off the bat, again, we've got our cliffhanger. We recap it. The thing is, this time around, did you think that they recapped too much?
Yeah, I really do think that they do. And to us now as adults in 2020, to me it just looks like filler.
Right.
Let's keep the production down by doing a huge long recap. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but this one even went on longer than usual. I mean, they started from the point of Robin, flashing the bat signal and being chased after them, and to the fighting, to the whole thing there. And I would have thought that could have even used some editing, and it didn't. They played the whole thing out to the point, again, where Batman is being crushed, apparently, by the gangplank. And I thought it was interesting because I don't remember it from episode 9, and I didn't bother to go back and look because I wanted to leave the impression there. I don't remember Robin jumping into the water in the last episode, though.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because now I'm kind of confused. I watched them back-to-back, these 2 chapters.
Right, me too.
And now I'm trying to remember when... I remember him jumping in the water, but maybe it is shown in chapter 10 rather than in chapter 9. I know that, spoiler alert, Batman rolls out of the way of the gangplank. Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't even get him, because, maybe he was still unconscious and Robin grabs him because he jumped into the water. And we see him coming out of the water, Robin, when he comes up on the pier there next to Batman. Why couldn't he be the one to grab him and pull him away at the last moment? That would have worked.
Sure, and we've had Robin save Batman before in this serial, and that's cool. Robin's fairly capable. Mm-hmm. I'll give the character that in this serial, except for when he constantly calls Batman Bruce.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think I would have seen that. Again, there's nothing terribly clever or intelligent about just rolling out of the way. But I guess the point to the production company is that he gets out of it. It's not really how he gets out of it. It's just that, yes, he gets out of it. The standard serial cliffhanger, death trap, escape sort of mentality.
Right to the house, Alfred.
It doesn't necessarily have to be very clever or anything like that at all.
It's funny because, okay, they get out of it. They go back to Wayne House. It's not Wayne Manor.
Yeah.
Wayne House, and Batman decides they're going to leave Marshall at the police station. But we get a quick scene of them in the Batcave again, and it got me thinking when I'm watching that episode. I said, what is the purpose? I mean, I know, we place it here. This is where, the whole thing of the Batcave started and everything. And I have this serial to thank for my podcast name and all. But the thing is, what was the purpose of creating the Batcave when the lab off to the side, is where they do all the work? Like, I know we opened up on the very first episode, we had Batman sitting there, with his head in his fist, balled up and kind of brooding and stuff, and Robin comes in and they run off. There's no Batmobile. There's no vehicle at all. No, no egress, it seems, from there to any place else. We don't see it, at least unless that's going to come up next. I don't see the point other than as a place to bring prisoners back, because you mentioned the last time, why the phone there and stuff. And I'm thinking maybe it's an interrogation room and only an interrogation room.
You're making a really good point, and I hadn't really thought of that. But you're making a really good point. The lab is for Bruce and Dick,
right?
If I'm remembering correctly, we don't see them as Batman and Robin in the lab.
So far, no.
Bruce and Dick. In a way, that's for Bruce to not have to be dressed up as Batman, but he's also not doing the effete playboy layabout Bruce. In some ways, the lab is for him to be his true, real self.
Right.
But the Batcave is for the trappings of Batman, because we don't see Bruce in the Batcave.
Right.
What you're saying is that the Batcave was set up almost for the public, or to bring villains back to.
Right.
That's a really, really interesting point, and I'm really glad that you brought that up, because it really feels like something. It's definitely for Batman as Batman. I'm glad it's there, if only for that opening shot way back in Chapter 1, which I love, of Batman sitting there at that desk, which is not a very special desk.
No.
It's just a desk, But anyways, I can criticize anything, I can find some criticism in anything. But it's a wonderful establishing shot.
Yes.
And they bother to show that there are bats flying around in it. So I'm all for it. And if that's the way it gets to be used as an interrogation room, then great, sure.
It's interesting, too, because then when we get to 66 Batman is very much against the idea of bringing anyone to the Batcave unless... Well, he doesn't even say unless absolutely necessary, but clearly he bends the rules at times, like when he brings Catwoman in and Police Commissioner Gordon and, Batgirl.
Yep.
And then, of course, the ones that he didn't intend to bring in, like King Tut.
yeah, that happens too. And Joker and Penguin.
Well, see, he let that happen, though.
In the 3-parter, right.
But I just thought it odd because I'm looking at it going, what is the point of the back? It doesn't make sense unless it's just for interrogation. And then if it is interrogation, why a big desk? What's in the desk? And again, here's me filling in all my gaps, trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, that's okay. You're a thinking man. Hey, did we wait? We skipped a Daka scene, didn't we?
No, we haven't told. We know Daka's next, and that was actually my next.
Don't you dare skip that.
No, and then comes my next head scratcher about Daka.
Fletcher, how dare you come here? Are you trying to lead the police to this place?
I couldn't stay at Bernie's place. The Batman suddenly appeared.
You told me yourself he was buried under tons of rock at Colton's mine.
I thought he was. He must have escaped somehow.
Escaped as usual. And now you let them discover our connection with the Sphinx Club, making it worthless to us.
That knowledge won't do him any good. I personally killed him on the wharf outside the club.
I do not appreciate your sense of humor. I wonder if there's more than one Batman. All members of the same organization.
We get a scene with Daka, and he learns that Batman's alive, and of course he's angry again at his men. And in watching this scene, all of a sudden, 10 episodes in, I suddenly realized, and maybe we did comment on this and I'm missing it, but he has no Japanese operatives helping him. It's all Americans who are buying into Daka's scheme.
Yes. Except for the people from Japan on the submarine.
On the sub, but nobody
Sure.
actually in America. Nobody that he sends out, maybe being clandestine, sneaking around. It's just gangsters and all, And what does that say about Americans?
I can justify that, though, because it's a time of war and a time of war against Japan. In a way, Daka is smart because he knows that any Japanese operatives would have a much harder time of being out in the outside world.
Sure. Absolutely.
I mean, Daka himself does not go out because he's Japanese, and he knows that he's going to be immediately targeted, that people are going to look at them, look at him askance and possibly more. So, yeah, it would have been interesting to have him utilize a servant of some sort in his secret hideout, a Japanese servant, of some sort, an assistant, a major domo for his little secret hidey hole thing. But no, I can totally see why he has the, white Americans as his arms and legs and eyes going out. Although he's constantly mad at them.
Yes. He is constantly mad. And hang on, because you say Daka never goes out, but we're going to see later on he does go out. And that's what I'm thinking. An operative would have worked better if he could have sent, so-and-so off and said, report back to me and make sure these idiot Americans don't screw this up again.
Now, this is the scene that I'm talking about that has one of the most significant, to this point, lines of dialogue in 10 whole chapters of this serial.
Okay.
He's told that Batman is still alive, and he says he wonders if there's more than one Batman.
Ah.
I lit up and nearly jumped out of my seat when he said that, and I had to write it down and underscore that several times. Now, I don't know if that appeals to anybody else listening to this or watching this serial, but that appealed to me like I can't even put it into words, and I'm a writer. To me, that's fascinating, and I almost wish that there was a way to follow up on that more, or some kind of alternate take on this story. But that's fascinating, and it's just a throwaway line. But I give whoever wrote this thing credit for even putting it in there. The idea that the bad guy gets this idea that there's more than one guy running around as Batman, and that's why he keeps turning up and seemingly getting out of these death traps. That maybe it's some sort of club or league or group or, a society of Batmans, that this is why this occurs. But then the moment passes and it's gone, But I love that idea that he even thought to say it, and he says it out loud. I almost wish that, the guy that he's talking to would have commented on that, like, nah, no, I sure hope not, something like that. But obviously, that didn't make the same impact on you that it did on me.
Yeah, it didn't hit me though. But now that you mention it, yeah, it is pretty cool, and it does, get you thinking. And wasn't there something about also multiple Batcaves or something in the comics at one point around the world or something? Was that, or am I just fantasizing something?
Well, much later on into the 90s, we found out that Batman had different Batcaves all around Gotham City.
Okay.
I'm sure he has what Sherlock Holmes would have called bolt holes all around the world, places that he can hide out in and would have, equipment that he could utilize if he was in a certain part of the world. But yeah, there were different Batcaves that weren't as big as the main Batcave,
right.
But nevertheless, he referred to them as Batcaves. Yeah, it's a fascinating idea, which Batman kind of owes to Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
Because Sherlock Holmes had all over London, he had bolt holes, as he called them, little rooms, secret rooms here and there that he would have supply of, maybe food or more things for disguises or maybe, ammunition or things like that he could access quickly wherever he was if he couldn't make it back to Baker Street.
Right.
Yeah, really fascinating idea. There's a really fun Batman story in the 1950s. It's either late 40s into the 50s, where there is a league of Batman, but it's a ruse by crooks to fool a guy and to get his money. That they make him believe that there are several Batmans running around, and there's a main one, and then the quote unquote real one, and then he has all these different assistants who are Batman, and they try to bilk this guy out of all of his money by saying, you're now part of this league, and then you have to pay us for a Batmobile and a Bat plane and a Batcave, and they're milking him of all of his money, and then it goes horribly wrong. But I love that particular story. So again, I think that's probably part of why this appeals to me in this serial.
Right. Well, we get back to Bruce, and he has received a coded message from Washington. He has Dick work on decoding it because Linda arrives. She's in a really foul mood because Bruce, first of all, missed his date with her the night before. And as he says, I took Dick to the amusement park and it got late. But also she brings up she doesn't like Chuck White.
Yeah, he's a cheap gangster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so funny that this disguise is so effective, and she calls him deep down inside there's a cheap gangster in Bruce Wayne if he's being able to do this so effective. I made a note, and bear with me on this one too.
Okay.
Because something has finally occurred to me about Linda in this whole serial, this whole production, that you have to think about the audience that this chapter play was intended for, which is basically young boys.
Right.
She is a young boy's dream, which is you keep girls angry and away. That's how they're to be treated, and Linda's the poster child for this whole thing. You keep them kind of angry and you keep them away from you. That's what girls are for. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's no mushy stuff in this production between her and Bruce. And even if it starts to veer towards that, then something happens to disrupt that again. But as many times as this happens over and over and over again, that Bruce keeps her angry and away from him, because that's the place of girls in a young boy's life.
Right.
You don't think of anything else for them in here. She's more or less a plot device, as far as she is the kind of the catalyst to get us into this whole thing. Remember her uncle?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Way back when?
Yeah.
I don't even know if he's still around or if they're still looking for him or anything at all. But this all began because of Linda's uncle.
Well, it's funny because she's not upset about her uncle. She's not bringing, I would have been quick, and they still haven't found my uncle, or something like that.
Yeah.
Colton. Sorry, I'm going to keep bringing him up. Poor Colton. Nothing there. But she's mad that he stood her up for a date.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Well, again, you can't have that in a young boy's life.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they bothered to have the character at all in this production. Linda is not very prominent in the overall Batman mythos. They got rid of characters like that very quickly in the comic books because they knew they couldn't have Bruce settle down. We're going back to this thing is the comic books were meant mostly for young boys.
Right.
And you can't have a woman. that Lois Lane hung around in Superman for as long as she did is incredible. But again, what did Superman do? Pretty much keeps her angry and away.
True. Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing. But I'm glad that she's in there because she is actually a real comic book character. But why she hasn't left Bruce completely by this point, 10 chapters in, I have no idea.
Wow. Yeah.
She must be a good dancer or something like that.
I guess. I don't know. or she likes that New England accent.
That must be what it is. It has to be that. But at least we get a bunch more Chuck White, like you said.
Well, that's the thing, because she leaves in a huff because she's not getting any satisfaction as Dick comes back with a report of a stolen radium shipment. And Bruce wants to look into it, but as Chuck White once again. So we're like you said, we're getting more Chuck White.
Yeah. Well, I think he saw that it was effective. They didn't see through the Chuck White disguise, and he realizes that it's effective and it can continue to be utilized. And I do like it that he goes so far as to he gets taken with the thugs on that little excursion where they're waiting for the drop, I guess. Is that what we want to call it?
Yeah, the drop, because that's basically what it is. Yeah.
But the one thing that really kind of confused me was they're out in this field. Chuck is told to stand in a certain spot. And the one guy said, I'm going to go back and stand over here, and the other guy's going to go stand up over there. And almost immediately, but when Bruce is left alone, he takes off.
It was badly done there. I mean, because the whole time he's looking shifty from the moment they get to the field, and clearly that at least I accepted when one of the guys catches him and says, I knew there was something fishy about you, because I was like, yeah, he's acting fishy once they got it. He was fine. Because here's the thing, you skipped over this whole big part there where we've got Daka at the Sphinx Club. Well, no, not at the Sphinx Club. Chuck goes back to the Sphinx Club, Bruce, and he convinces them that the only reason he was acting the way he was because he heard Batman's name. And I guess in all the confusion, they're forgetting the fact that he was acting weird long before Batman's name was mentioned. But they take him and say, okay, they bring him to the Bell Street house where Doc is inspecting new recruits and so that he can initiate, and he calls it Plan 18. And I don't know what that is, but okay, maybe we'll get to that afterwards. And I love this scene because there's Bruce as Chuck. He's placed in this room and he's told to wait there. Doc is behind the wall, and he opens the thing and he's looking out through this picture, through the eyes of the picture. The picture looks like Alan Napier.
I don't think I actually noticed that. That's pretty funny. I did like that because we finally get Bruce and Daka in, if not quite the same room, at least, in close proximity to each other.
Yep.
Our main hero and our main villain being brought together. And of course, the eyes in the portrait is such an old, hoary cliche that it's actually fun to see it in this. But yeah, I love that because there's been no real connection between the two of them up until this point.
No, the only connection was way back when Bruce was pretending to be the Swami, and he gets the call from Daka.
Yeah,
at the Swami shop.
Yeah, and I love that, and I like that scene too. Those near brushes that they have with each other. Right,
exactly.
Oh, by the way, I made a note of this. I wanted to break this up. I like the whistle signal that Bruce does.
Yes.
That's another fun, clever thing in here, and he does it very well too.
He does. Well, because he manages to get away. Now we get back to the field there, and he manages to get away though from them and stuff. And he calls out to Dick with their whistle signal. Dick responds, so he's able to follow the sound and get to the car, and they make the change. Now here's the thing. I have a real problem with this ending because now the two come in as Batman and Robin. They start fighting. And then suddenly, Batman just gets in one of the cars and drives off. Now, my only thing I can figure is the reason he's doing that is he wants to drive to where the radium is dropping first. Because
I think that's what it is.
Because it's the only reason I can see. There's no, I'll go get the radium, Robin, or anything like that. He just gets in the car, and you're like, what are you doing? Where are you going? And, of course, then, the goons shoot the tires out. The car starts going out of control. Crash. Car on fire. End of episode. And for that matter, we don't know where Robin is in all this, in the midst of it all.
Aha.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the key to this whole thing. I do also have to note that, John, there's absolutely nothing like breaking a window in a plane.
Yes.
To throw something out of it. There's just nothing like it, Did they not... I guess what? They didn't pressurize planes back in 1943, maybe? Or where they didn't fly as high, I guess.
Maybe if it's a low enough flying plane, maybe it didn't need to worry about being as...
I guess not, but still... you're still breaking a window in a plane that's how many, feet in the air.
I know. God.
And nobody seems to, realize that. Oh, man.
Oh. I liked this episode better than the last one. I'll say that much because there's a lot going on. There was more Daka and stuff, but I'm still annoyed. No Colton.
Just hang on. I'm not acting like I know anything, but other than I've watched, thousands of things like this in my 50 plus years.
Right.
So, and if he's not, then an angry letter to my congressperson.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna call 911.
911, what's your emergency?
We have an emergency here. Colton hasn't shown up yet in the Batman 43 movie.
Watching a chapter play from 1943 and being mad at it does not constitute an emergency. Well, it does in my life.
Exactly. You never specify what kind of an emergency. It just says 4 emergencies.
Yeah, this is important.
Oh, man. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Batcave podcast as the car goes crashing off and setting on fire. And I'm sure he'll roll out of it or something. But we'll see. We'll see on the next episode there. Before we go...
Wait, or maybe he won't. Maybe he'll just get burned up and that's it.
And that's it. And then Colton shows up and he takes the guys.
There you go.
Before we go, though, Jim, if people want to get a hold of you and learn more about, your current writings and stuff like that, how do they go about doing that?
They can go, well, they should just go to my Amazon author page. Just go to Amazon under books and put my name in, and you'll see all my books there. They can reach me on Twitter. My handle there is @WriterJimBeard. That's all one word, Writer Jim Beard.
Right.
On Facebook at The Beard, the Jim Beard fan page. And then also there's the Facebook page for Gotham City 14 Miles.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. So, folks, as I say, that's going to do it. Tune in next time. I don't know what next week is. I was making up a list of things, but I haven't thought even this far ahead. But I can assure you it'll be a lot of fun because it's Batman.
And we're a lot of fun.
Exactly.
Even when we're not drinking.
Even when we're not, exactly. So, folks, until next time, thank you so much for listening. Once again, Jim, citizens, take care.
The man at the wheel of that truck is a killer, and he's out to get the passenger. Will he succeed? Don't fail to see A Nipponese Trap, Chapter 11 of Batman, at this theater next week.